Well, the U.S. Declared on Thursday that it has given up trying to work with the UN Security Council in Syria, accusing Russia of holding the council hostage. For more on that, let's cross live to Charlie McGrath. He's the founder of the website Wide Awake News. Hi there, Charlie. I want to begin by playing you a short clip of the comments that were made by the U.S. ambassador to the UN, Samantha Power. Take a look.
There is no viable path forward in this Security Council. The system has protected the prerogatives of Russia. Russia continues to hold the council hostage and shirk its international responsibilities, including as a party to the Chemical Weapons Convention.
Certainly tough comments there. I'm curious what your response is to that approach.
Well, it's extremely harsh. I mean, you know, she's there at in front of the UN talking about Russia holding the Security Council hostage. I mean, making Russia the bad guy, because Putin is one of the only people in the international community who has the, I want to say courage to stand up and ask super common sense questions. Who benefits from this? And let's not rush to launch $1.5 million Tomahawk cruise missiles because we have a 5-page report that is in large part made up of YouTube clips and Twitter feed.
And I'm curious, President Obama has said that the United States needs to get out of the habit of relying solely on Security Council resolutions. Are there implications, in your view, for the rule of international law as a result of this?
Well, I think the rule of international law is out the window when it comes to the powers that be in the West implementing regime change around the globe. I don't see the UN as being effective other than, in humanitarian cases of delivering food. And I guess we're going to find out how effective they are in determining if chemical weapons were used in Syria or not. But it seems the U.S. Relies on NATO in a lot of cases, or just goes unilaterally to invoke a regime change or destabilization around the world.
But if we look at instances where the U.S. Had turned to the UN Security Council to affect certain policies, for example, the very contentious Israeli-Palestinian issue, I mean, we've seen some have raised the example of the U.S. essentially blocking UN Security Council resolutions when it comes to Israeli settlements. So is that a fair sort of a balance there?
Well, I guess so. I mean, if they're going to go up there and go to bat for their cause and then block Security Council resolution or agendas for moving forward. If we're accusing Russia of doing it, Russia's going to accuse us of doing it if we're in the face of one of their allies. I guess it's a posturing game. And again, I'm not one to advocate the UN as an effective body of governance. Certainly, I don't want the UN determining who the United States of America is going to go to war with. But it seems, Lucy, it's just the exact opposite of that. We're acting first. And then when there's international pressure or there's pressure at home because the people are tired of the lies, the propaganda to get us into war, we fall back on, well, we'll go to the UN and ask them for support or for some kind of revolution or resolution. But for powers to come out and just blatantly attack Russia in the midst, at the beginning of the G20 economic summit, I think it really is a smack in the face to Russia.
Well, you mentioned the international community here, and I'm curious because the White House has said that the red line on Syria was, in fact, set by the international community, not by the United States itself. Of course, any sort of chemical attack would be absolutely horrific and beyond the norms of any sort of international law if that's what's going to come out of the UN report. But at the same time, why then is there so little international support for strikes in Syria at the moment?
Because we've killed, literally, estimates are over millions of people over the last decade prosecuting war on evidence that we knew was set in stone, right? John Kerry's one of the ones that helped get us into Iraq in 2003 because he knew that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. I think the world is war weary, and they're no longer trusting the message or the messenger. So it's not a surprise to me that the international community is stepping away from our guaranteed claim that Assad was responsible for this gas attack, if that's indeed what it was.
Well, if the world is wary of war, diplomacy should seem like a viable option. But at the same time, we recently just heard that both the Senate Majority Leader and the House Speaker have both declined to meet with their Russian colleagues who are currently in Washington to try to discuss the situation in Syria. What do you read into that decision?
Well, I have an interesting point of view on that because, first of all, I think the powers that be in Washington, D.C., both red and blue team, can use this situation in order to solve other problems outside of the Syrian crisis. We're bumping up against $16.6 trillion in debt. We've been at 100 days consistently at 25 million below our legal debt limit. A Syrian conflict would certainly help alleviate that problem by increasing a debt ceiling when we're all holding hands in a patriotic cause of war. But let's not kid ourselves. The president made it really, really clear. He isn't invoking Congress under some constitutional mandate. You know, he's not using the Constitution and going to go the way Congress decides we should on Syria. He's going to do what he's already predetermined he's going to do. He just wants Congress involved because he thinks it will be a stronger statement that if the American have skin in the game. This is, I'm paraphrasing what he said in Sweden just yesterday. So even though Congress is involved and more than likely will come together and authorize some kind of use of force in Syria, it's irrelevant because the president, I think, has already made up his mind, along with the powers that be in Washington, D.C., and people around the world, namely AIPAC, they're all on board, as well as al-Nusra and al-Qaeda, that this attack is going to go forward. So even though we're talking about Congress and the people having a say, the truth of the matter is, I think it's been predetermined, and they're going to proceed regardless of what we, the people, want.
All right. Well, certainly a divisive issue both in the United States and abroad. Charlie McGrath, thanks for weighing in with your opinion there.